So, what you just heard, or whatever you have heard till now, before that sound, before that note, there was silence. After it, there was possibility. I have spent my life in that space between silence and sound, between what was given to me and what I choose to create with it, between a tradition that is 700 years old and a world that moves every 7 seconds. My name is Mehtab Ali Niazi. I play this beautiful instrument called the sitar. And I believe the oldest thing that I do might be the most useful thing you need for the future you're trying to build. Because here's what I have learned. I have learned that tradition is not a museum, it's a forge. I was 4 years old when my father, Ustad Mohsen Ali Khan, first placed a sitar in my hands, in these hands. It was not a toy version, the actual thing, the real sitar. 20 strings, a neck taller than I was, and maybe because in my lineage, the Bhendi Bazar Gharana, you don't choose the tradition chooses you. At 8 years, I gave my first public performance at Pandit Birju Maharaj Ji's birthday celebration. If you don't know who that is, imagine being 8 and performing where legendary musicians are sitting in the audience, where one wrong note does not just embarrass you, it disrespects 700 years of masters who came before you. I remember that stage still, my hands shaking, and my father's voice right before I walked out on stage. He said, "Don't think about the people, forget about the musician sitting in the audience. Think about the note. Think and try to serve the note." I played, finished my performance, and after the performance, Pandit Birju Maharaj Ji smiled at me. And that smile told very important thing to me that night. It said that this path you are walking on is real. Walk it. So I did. I studied under masters Padma Bhushan Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra Ji, Padma Shri Pandit Madhuk Mudgal Ji. I practiced until my fingers bled. I competed, I toured, I collaborated with film composers and hip hop artists. And somewhere along the way, I convinced 100,000 people a month to stream this centuries old tradition on Spotify, which my guru finds very confusing till date. But all of that, the stages, the awards, these achievements, every stream that I get on Spotify, none of it matters if I cannot answer one question. The question being, why does any of this matter to you? Because every time I open Instagram or any other social media platform, I see the same question in different forms. Why does this matter? Why spend 10,000 hours learning one raga when you can download a loop in 10 seconds? Why master a 700-year-old discipline when the algorithm rewards what you made just this morning? Why practice patience when speed wins? And I get it. You are engineers, makers, builders. You are taught to optimize, move fast, iterate, and fail forward. Classical music, on the other hand, is the opposite of it. It's very slow, hierarchical, obsessed with rules, and it asks you to spend years perfecting something that already exists, even before you're allowed to create something new, something of your own. It's like being asked to write machine codes when everyone else is using Python. It feels outdated for sure, inefficient, and yet, what if I told you this slowness, this constraint is exactly what makes radical innovation possible? Let me try and explain what I mean by forge. A museum preserves, a forge transforms. A museum says, look but don't touch. A forge says, Here are the tools. Here's the fire. Now try and make something that has never existed before. And the difference here is very simple. The difference is discipline. In engineering, you know this intimately. You cannot build a bridge without understanding load-bearing principles. You cannot write elegant codes without understanding data structures. You cannot deploy AI responsibly without understanding bias and ethics. Discipline is not the enemy of innovation. It's the scaffolding that makes innovation possible. In Indian classical music, our culture, we have something called the riyaz, which is daily practice, but it's not repetitive phrase. It's like iterative refinement, a feedback loop where you practice a single phrase 100 times, and each time you are testing yourself. You are asking yourself, what happens if I sustain this note a bit longer? What if I approach it from a different angle? What if I let silence do the talking? Where you're not copying, you are forging, taking raw materials, rules, ragas, centuries of knowledge, and eating it, bending it, shaping it into something new. But here's the critical part, the most important part that I have learned. You can only break rules you understand. You can only innovate within a system if you have first mastered that system. Otherwise, you're not innovating. You are just making noise. I was 16 when I gave the first competition. Let me try and give you two examples about what I just said. I was 16. The Sangeet Natak Academy competition, it's a prestigious competition, happens in Indian classical music. The judges were really brutal. They could hear a microtone out of place. I chose Rag Yaman, a beautiful melody, but yet unforgiving. Every note is exposed and you have nowhere to hide behind. 3 weeks before the performance, I couldn't get one phrase right. It was a single meaned phrase which I was trying to practice, but somehow under pressure, my fingers froze. My father, my father saw that happening and sat down with me, not to motivate me, but rather he said, "You are trying to control the note. Instead of that, try to trust the system." So I stopped chasing the result. I went back to the structure, practiced that phrase at least 500 times until it became instinct. On stage, it landed perfectly, but not because I forced it, because I served it. I learned that constraint is not limitation, it's liberation. Fast forward a few years, I'm in a studio in Mumbai. Across from me is Farhan Khan, a famous rapper. We are supposed to collaborate on a track. He's in his sneakers and a hoodie. I'm wearing a short kurta and holding this 300 years old instrument, which is this sitar. We both looked at each other and thought, this is a terrible idea. He plays me his beat. It's fast, aggressive, 808s hitting like a frightening train. And then he goes, "Can you do something with this?" And I thought, how do I fit a raga? Something that needs space, breath, time, into a beat that moves at 140 BPM. And then it clicked me. I thought the raga is a system, the beat is also a system, and systems can talk to each other. So I didn't try to force the sitar to sound like a trap hi-hat. I tried to find the gaps, the spaces between the kick and the snare. I played a phrase in Rag Bhairavi, low, grounding, almost meditative, and dropped it into those gaps. Farhan, totally surprised, looked at me and then he goes, "That should not work out," but it does. Cut to, that track reached hundreds of thousands of listeners, people who had never heard a sitar, people who didn't know what a raga was, but they felt it. Because we didn't abandon our disciplines, we used them. We used them to let the old forge the new. And this is what happens when you master fundamentals deeply enough. You don't just preserve tradition, you give it a new life. And I've seen this in film soundtracks in collaboration across genres, in moments where an old traditional raga meets a Spotify algorithm and somehow wins it. Not because the old is better than the new, but because depth does not age. Systems built on truth don't expire. Let me try and demonstrate what I just said on the sitar. This is the basic structure of Rag Darbari. It's a night raga, serious, contemplative, almost architectural. The rules are very strict. Certain notes can only be bent from below, others must be sustained. In short, you cannot rush it. Watch what happens when I follow the rules and play it. Now, watch what happens when I know these structure and rules well enough to bend them. As you must have seen the difference, the first phrase was a system. The second was me using that system to say something new, to say something of my own. But as I say, the critical part, I couldn't have done the second one without mastering the first. And that's the fourth. Conclusively, here's what I want to leave you with. You are building the future with code, with hardware, with ideas that don't exist yet. And you should, please do. But don't mistake speed for progress. Don't confuse disruption with depth. Because here's what I have learned after spending 21 years with this instrument. I've learned that the people who shape the future are not the ones who move the fastest. They are the ones who understand their systems deeply enough to transform them. When you master fundamentals, really master them, you don't just become better at what you do. You gain the power to reimagine what's possible. The engineer who deeply understands algorithms does not just write faster code, they invent new paradigms. So, to really forge the future, I would say find your raga, find your own discipline, your system, not the one that looks good on a resume, the one that asks everything from you, the one that humbles you, the one that will take a lifetime to master it. Master it so deeply that when you break the rules, you are not destroying, you are forging. I was 4 years old when I started. I am 27 now. I will be learning this for the rest of my life. And I am not afraid of that. Because every time I pick up the sitar, I am not just preserving the past. I am creating a future that the past makes possible. And this one thing that I know with experience, the future is not something we predict. It's something we forge. And if you want to forge it well, start by learning to smith the present. Thank you.